Okay, so we've been looking at how to produce output using the print statement. Now, what if we wanted to format a string that looks something like this? Say we're building a program that generates scripts for movies or for songs or something like that. So we've got the line, we want the computer program to output this line, "Who is Johnny?" she said. And notice here that we've got these quotes that we want to include in the output. But we use quotes to define strings in Python, which is going to be real problematic, right? So let's look at, let's say, a naive attempt at doing this in Python. Here we've got a little piece of code. We start off with the name Johnny. We define a variable with a string called Johnny, and we have a message, who is, we do string concatenation, name, question mark, she said. And you'll notice that we've got the starting quotes and ending quotes at the beginning and end of the string, but we've also got starting and ending quotes inside of the string itself. So this is going to get a little bit confusing. So let's look at how Python processes these statements to really get an idea of what's going on. So when Python processes a statement like this, it always processes it directly from right to left. So it starts at the beginning of the command, runs to the end of the command, and does each of the pieces as best as it can. So let's look at what Python is thinking while it's doing this. It starts out with message equals. And we know that Python will interpret this as declaring a variable, because what it's going to do is it's going to see a string, it's going to see some kind of name here called message, and it's going to say, do I have a message already? Do I have a variable called message? I don't. I'm going to create it because I'm using the assignment operator here, right? So that creates a variable. Python's totally happy with that. Then it says, oh, I've got a parenthesis. This is string start to Python. So it knows where it's going to start the string, and it knows everything that follows should be inside of that string. Then it gets to the next pair of quotes and it says, okay, that's the end of the string. Empty strings are perfectly okay in Python. So Python is just following its instructions and saying, I've got a string, open quotes, closed quotes, that's it, right? Now, where it gets confused is where we've got stuff following it. This thing develops a syntax error because what's happening is it's looking at this part here, and it's not a string concatenation operator, it's not a string multiplier, it's not something to modify, and it's outside of, it doesn't know what who is means, so it balks and it throws a syntax error, which is basically it's saying, I'm totally confused, I have no idea what you're trying to do here, right? So let's enter how to include these quotes inside of strings, how to get the Python interpreter to ignore certain sets of quotes. And we do that with what's called the backslash, right? So what we did here is we included a backslash in front of the quotes that we want Python to ignore. We don't want those to, those to be inside of the string there. So we put those in front of the quotes that we wanted to ignore, and what it does is it tells Python to ignore those as the start and end string operators. So as Python is processing this one, now it gets string start, it comes across the escape character, which says, I'm going to escape my normal operation, ignore the character that follows in, include it in the total string. So now I've got a quotes inside of my message variable. Then it runs through, adds who is, because those are normal strings. Now it's a string end. So this one doesn't have a slash because we want it to be the first part of the quote. We do string concatenate, access and add name, which is Johnny, do another string concatenate, open string, question mark, ignore, escape again, include this parenthesis in the total string. So now we've got the quote, who is Johnny, inside of the message variable. And the string continues at this point with she said until we get to the unescaped quotation marks, and that concludes the string. That's the string end, and everything processes well. And I called this the escape character. And what this means is that it allows the interpreter, the machine itself, to escape from normal processing and for us to do something special. And there's a lot of special things that we can do. Here's an example where we want to actually include a backslash inside of a string. And we do that using the double backslash. So in this case, we have 2 backslashes here. If we had 1 backslash, it would ignore the O in or, and everything would be super confused. It doesn't know what an O and or following a backslash means. So we put 2 backslashes, and that inserts a backslash right into the string, and we end up with this nice, well-formatted string here. Right? There's a bunch of other things that it can do too. One of them is we can do escape single quotes, so that puts a single quote inside of the string. We can also do things like /n, which is a new line. So this allows us to put a new line. It puts it at the beginning of a line into a string. So I could do hello, new line, world, in one string, back to back with a /n in between, and that would end up showing up on 2 different lines, which is handy if we're doing formatting and stuff like that. The /r allows us to do something similar. It's a carriage return. It has basically the same behavior as a new line, but due to some legacy things and support for Windows and Linux and stuff like that, it's still in there as a separate object. And then we have tab/t, which allows us to put a horizontal tab to put a big space in between our output formatting, which is super handy too. So the escape sequences are really handy for making sure that things are very well formatted, very nice and clean, and we can take advantage of those when we're producing output in our programs.